Yeah. A bit about me. I'm Aske. This is my first time hosting our HubSpot user group. Super excited about that. I'm a senior inbound strategist here at Helion B2B. We're a HubSpot Diamond partner. I've been working approximately 10 years with HubSpot and inbound strategy implementation for B2B software companies. Apologies in advance if I sound a bit under the weather. I'm recovering from a cold that hit me just as I got back from Boston. Must have been that air conditioning in the conference center. But I'm joined today by my colleague Emil. Emil, he leads our HubSpot Excellence Center, so he's the right person to talk us through some of the major product updates that we want to showcase for you today. Emil, welcome back from Boston. How are you doing?
Thank you. Doing very good, Aske. I think I say this with all due respect. I'm doing a little bit better than you in terms of health. Also got the easy version of the jet lag, so doing very well and just flying on the inspiration from Boston.
Yeah, what's your overall experience with the conference? What do you think about it?
Very exciting, and particularly exciting this year, I'd say. There have been some years, not to downplay it at all, because I do believe it's a very, very good conference, probably the best I've attended, to be honest, comparing it to at least a handful of other tech conferences. But this year, as they said, not a drag the spreadsheet year. Very, very big things happening in our market. I think for those of us that have been in it for 8, 10 plus years, I think we've all experienced that this is one of, if not the most tumultuous, most exciting years we've been in. It's very likely that we'll look back in 30, 40 years and say, this is where it all changed. This is the beginning of a new era. So of course, I'm thinking about AI here. So that part, of course, was a very big focus, which also meant that it's not just the inspirational stuff, the big keynotes with the very high level generic things that are always interesting, but to be honest, it's limited what you really take home of like true business value. But this year, so many very like specific product updates from HubSpot in terms of AI, usable hacks we've already talked about and implemented some of them already. So yeah, the overall experience was very, very positive. Apart from that, it's always just a great place to meet other inbound marketers and salespeople and network with them.
Sure. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think there was some like really interesting real life applications of just kind of like not necessarily like revolutionary stuff, but just like hacks. Yeah, we might dedicate another session, another user group for some of those, because I think we definitely came home with content for more than one user group. Definitely a lot of stuff to dive into. Emil, you already mentioned it. Of course, generative AI and AI in general was, of course, the big topic this year. Not surprisingly, it was not the only major theme, but it was definitely the big one. So, Emil, I would like to hear your take. Like, HubSpot AI, are you hyped or not?
I'm absolutely hyped for the future, I would say. And by future in terms of AI, I don't mean in 5 or 10 years. I mean in maybe 5 or 10 weeks, or at least months. Currently, I'd say there are a good handful of real life applications where AI, HubSpot AI or AI within HubSpot have like true business value. And then I think there's a ton of features that are looking very, very interesting that we will definitely be using probably late this year, but are not ready yet. And this is exactly where part of what we wanted to talk about today, right? That we have to be careful which ones we roll out when, because a lot of them are being pushed currently as market ready by HubSpot, either in public beta or fully live. Chatspot being one example, where I'd say there are definitely parts of that are not ready for market, in my opinion. So some combination of a justified hype and some that is hype of the less valuable sort, I'd say.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And I think also, there's definitely some cool stuff. We're going to show some of it. that has to do with like HubSpot's new AI capabilities. But I think some of the real gold nuggets actually came from some of the other product updates that might sound less sexy, but are actually much more valuable kind of here and now. But we'll get back to that. Just to give a little bit of context, just kind of like taking home some of the like the headlines from the conference. So this is the context that HubSpot kind of used for setting the stage in terms of, you know, how they're thinking about their product and their solution. This is their simplified concept of the modern buyer's journey, or customer journey. Nothing really revolutionary here, but I think if I were to kind of summarize this, how they see the customer journey, if I were to summarize that in one sentence, it would be to, as a vendor, as a company, to make sure that you are proactively giving buyers the information that they need, when they need it, and where they need it. You know, we are moving away from traditional search engines. You know, either people are discovering products on social channels, or they are using other channels of information, like ChatGPT to do their research. So how does this, you know, how does this affect something like content marketing and so on? When you have people on your website, you want to engage with a conversation with them instead of just like having them click the right things. People they expect to be able to engage in a helpful, valuable conversation, either with the person or with a bot, when they're on a vendor website. And yeah, and also like when you engage in a sales process, you also expect the salesperson who's working with you, you know, you expect as a buyer to have a very like a customized process that is tailored by like the personal insights that the vendor will have about you and your situation. And finally, when it comes to like customer support, it's no longer enough to, you know, just to be reactive, to kind of react once you've had a support ticket, say, but you need to be proactive and, you know, identify customer issues, maybe even before they occur, and then, you know, reaching out and making sure to give the support to the customers that they need. So that's kind of like the overall like philosophy. I would say that was kind of like the red thread throughout the conference. Of course, the AI capabilities is now an important part of the HubSpot platform to kind of to make that happen, to support that new modern customer journey. And just to be clear, so now HubSpot is actually, you know, they're talking about their product as a customer platform, AI-powered customer platform that consists of best-of-class engagement hubs, so the marketing hub, sales hub, and so on. And still, you know, at the core of everything is the smart CRM. But if we want to, like, let's try to break down, like, so when we talk about the HubSpot AI capabilities, what are we actually talking about? So there are 4 elements to this. There are what we can call assistants, which are the generative tools, which most of you, I guess, have already played around with. You know, ChatGPT is one example. You know, an AI that can produce text, but also other assets for you, like images and so on. Then we have agents. So agents are AI capabilities that can do certain jobs for you. The best example is a chatbot on your website. So usually, or so far when we talked about chatbots, it has kind of been a not very intelligent form of chat. It's kind of been a pre-prompted or a pre-configured chatbot, where there's only kind of a limited number of ways that you can interact with it. But with an AI-powered chatbot, you know, the chatbot can actually find information on its own and provide the answers to the customer, the prospective customer, kind of on the fly. Then there's, of course, insights, which is basically data processing, turning massive amounts of data from your CRM into real life insights. And one example is what we can call natural language reporting. So instead of having to build a custom report from scratch, drag and dropping the dimensions and the elements and so on, the properties that you need to build your report, you can actually just use like a natural language prompt to say, I want a report that shows how many leads came from this channel, broken down by the time it took to reach out to those leads. So if you can kind of put into words the kind of report that you want to create, the idea is, and I'm not sure like how far we are from actually this being reality, but the idea is that you can then, or the platform will then generate this report for you.
Can I comment on that?
Of course.
I think this is the perfect example of one of those features that I'm definitely hyped for, and it feels like it's just on the cusp of being ready.
Yeah.
But currently, just to all you listening, it is like, I believe it is in public beta, but you have to be very specific with the way you prompt it to get any sort of value from it. Yeah. Where to a degree where you have, I mean, you spend as much time prompting as you would have just building.
Yeah.
So it's probably not there yet, but this is one of those things where I feel like this is going to revolutionize the way we, and especially all you out there, use HubSpot. For an individual sales rep having no idea and not being interested in learning like the ins and outs of HubSpot reporting and all the technical stuff happening in the background, but I just want a report of all the leads that I called last month. Well, here you have it.
Yeah,
that's going to be an awesome feature when it's ready.
100% agree. And I think this is one of the areas where AI can, as you say, expand the user base, the number of people who can benefit from, like, say, a reporting tool, for example, because there will always be people for whom it comes natural to build reports from scratch, like the way we used to do it. And there will always be people who, just don't have an interest in it, it doesn't come natural to them. So this way of being able to use natural language prompting is just a perfect way to kind of democratize these kind of tools. But it still needs to kind of come into full fruition, but I'm also really excited about it. It could also be something very simple, like, give me a summary of this data record. Like, if I have a contact record, write 3 lines about what I need to know about this contact before I call it. The last component of the HubSpot AI capabilities is Chatspot that Emil, you mentioned earlier. And that's basically, it's quite simple actually. It's basically GPT-powered HubSpot support in the way that, you can have Chatspot help you how you do stuff in HubSpot. It's quite limited so far. There are a few standard prompts that it can help you out with, but yeah, there's still some way to go. I think later we can talk a bit about different use cases, and we're also really interested to hear from all of you if you have some use cases that you would like to share. If you've already played around with some of these tools, it doesn't have to be HubSpot specific, but we're really curious about how are you using language models prompting in your daily work. But I think enough theory. Let's look at some tools. Emil, do you care to take us through it?
I would love to, yes. And I'd like to actually just begin with, I'm just playing around with my screen here. I will share in a second. I think I can't share as long as you are sharing, Aske.
There you go.
There we go. So I'd like to just have a look at some of the specific tools. But before doing that, I would just recommend you all, if you go to your little avatar here and scroll down to product updates, that will take you to this screen where you can sign into all these betas, because a lot of the stuff that we'll be talking about now are betas that you have to actively join on your portal. So this is the space where HubSpot are highlighting all the new features that they release. And if you want to be part of those public betas, you have to go in here and join them on your portal. Otherwise, they won't be visible in your system. When they're very close to the releasing, they sometimes like prompt you within the actual feature. Like there's a beta version of this feature that you could have a view of instead. But if they're a little earlier in development, they will be in here. So a lot of the things we'll be talking about will be viewable there instead. So I'll just be jumping through some of the things that were released during or closely around inbound. Some of them were briefly before, some of them were demoed for the very first time as we were there, and some of them aren't actually live yet, but are to come. I think one of the most interesting things are the quality of life features. So the prospecting view, a lot of you might have seen that's been in public beta for a couple of months now, but that's one of the big changes that's happening. Their focus is very much on just making things easier day to day for salespeople and service people. That's, I mean, they know they've optimized the whole UI for marketing for a long time, and you have all these different tools for sales scattered around in the portal, but they've said, okay, let's completely rethink and rebuild the SalesHub from the ground up. So that's the very big release that's been the main focus this year, is a complete overhaul of the SalesHub. And one of the key ways they've done that is to build this, what they call the prospecting view, where they basically summarize all the day-to-day tasks or things you have to have a view of as a sales rep, and sum those up in one collective view. So what they do is they have this basic report of all your tasks that are due today, split into to-dos, emails, and calls. And if you have any overdue tasks, then they will summarize them over here. And the cool thing about this is if you click in and try to have a look at these tasks or start a queue of them, it will jump directly to that record. You can have a look at what all the data related to this record. You can even go in and you can log a call on that record, and it will automatically complete the task. So it makes it's similar to task queues if you've ever played with that, but it just makes it extremely easy to go in as a sales rep, have a look at all your things you need to have a look at today, and handle them from one single view. You can click in and out of, but you don't have to jump through all the different tools like you used to. If you have any sequences that are currently running, you can have a quick overview of the status of them and whether you want to move some of them further, these automated sequences of calls and emails. It'll pull in your calendar. I grabbed the neutral version of my calendar here, do not give too much away, but it will, if you have any appointments today, meetings scheduled, for example, it will pull them in. And any suggested activities that are things you need to have a look at. This is partly at least machine learning fed, so it's quite cool. So if emails that you need to reply to, for example.
Emil, we have one question.
Yeah.
Do you know if there are any ways that we can customize the prospecting view as of now?
That is a good question. As of now, I don't believe there's a lot of customization capability. I can imagine that will come. But from what I know, no, I haven't been able to change this up so much. So,
right.
But good question.
What we can say though is that kind of like on like the partner sessions that we were attending the day before the conference started, we can easily say that like CRM customization is definitely like one of the big themes that the HubSpot developers have on their roadmap. Being able to customize the UI throughout the platform to your specific needs is a major theme. So I would definitely be surprised if this wasn't the kind of in the pipeline.
That's a very good point, and that's actually one of the key takeaways as well. If you had asked me half a year ago whether you could customize something like this, I'd say that you probably wouldn't be able to, because HubSpot's way of working was very much, we built something that's tailored to how you should do inbound, and if you don't want to work that way, you shouldn't use HubSpot. Basically, it was pretty much a take it or leave it approach to the architecture, and they've completely flipped the script on that. I think their goal here, their hidden agenda, is very much to challenge systems like Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamics that are very adaptable and customizable. So you still have that. It's sort of the best of both worlds, where you still have that very, very strong out of the box build, but you now have the option to customize it to your specific needs. So I agree, Aske. And to your question, Nikolai, I'd very much imagine that they will enable this when it goes fully publicly live. But currently, no, I don't believe it's possible to change this up. But yeah, it would make sense if you don't use sequences, just remove that. I think you can. Let's see. Yeah, you can pull around a little bit. I don't think you can remove it. But the final thing I want to add here is they added this, which is, it seems like a minor detail, but in terms of HubSpot architecture, it's actually a pretty big deal. They added leads. And leads, if you work with Salesforce or Dynamics, may be a little bit confusing. So the way HubSpot's built the data model is you have contacts. Every single contact in your system is still a contact. And you have companies. Every single company in your CRM is still a company. But now you have this overarching sort of umbrella object type, which is a lead, which means that it's someone who's designated to be ready for sales. You can mark this on whether it should be when they enter the leads lifecycle stage, or MQLs or SQLs, or all of them. But it's a way to mark someone as ready for sales, and they will enter this sort of like shadow funnel with a lot more customization capability than you had previously from just lead status and lifecycle stage. So that's quite interesting, and it will make it quite a lot easier to mimic some of the things that you may have been used to in Salesforce or Dynamics. You can see here, if I have a look at one example of a lead, it gives me all these data points on when it was last contacted, last engagement. But this is the really interesting thing, I feel like. So you get this lead funnel. We can see whether it's a new lead, it's someone that I've attempted to contact, I've already connected with them, or I think it's some like complete or something the last step is. This will be familiar to you if you've used lead status. But the cool thing here is this is all automatic. So because I've already been in touch with this person, I've already logged mails or calls. It said that I've been attempting to reach out to them, but they haven't replied to them. And that's why it's still in, or it's in connected, because they have replied. But yeah, it's a very, very easy way to make things manageable for sales. I think
this is also, sorry, Emil, I think this is also an example of, the way that they are designing their product, going from a platform built for marketers to a platform that is intended for all the different kind of professional roles that are supposed to use it. I would imagine that, they've probably done some user research on salespeople and, asked what is the one thing you need, for you to think HubSpot would be a better tool for you. And I would imagine, something like this, the leads that are sent to us from marketing, I need some kind of like easy overview of kind of where that is and what I'm supposed to do with it. Because I think so far, a lot of the logic in HubSpot has been very intuitive. If you work in marketing, if you're used to work with marketing sales alignment and lead handover and stuff like that, but as an individual sales rep, probably not so much.
Exactly. I think to really get an idea of this, you have to play around with it, because it's all minor tweaks, but I've toyed around with it since coming back from inbound, and it just feels more intuitive. So that's definitely an interesting change. The entire same logic will be applied to service, but service will need other functionality. So there will be this like service help desk, they call it, where you have your shared inbox, you have all live chats going, you have ongoing tickets, for example. That's still a month or two from being ready for public beta, I believe. But that's going to be an interesting development as well. So yeah, these easier interfaces, one of the takeaways. Another thing is the new reporting overview. So if you've been used to reporting, you've seen these like analytics views divided into not very transparent buckets of different types of reports that didn't necessarily make sense to you for what you just wanted to get. So instead, they've just divided it into these. This is a demo account, so it doesn't have all the reports available. But if you go into your reporting view, you'll see, depending on which hubs you have active, all kinds of like website reports, sales reports, service reports, etc. And let's see, I don't have it in this one, so I'll just jump over to this portal instead, where I have a few more reports because it has more hubs available. And there's this new, very interesting one, a lead funnel. And the cool thing here, or the cool thing, if I had more data in here, I will just 1 second. This is what happens when you demo in live portals. No. Okay. Try it in your own portal. The cool thing here is that you have all these, there's not a lot of leads coming currently, but if there were, you would have a whole funnel of how they were performing. And another cool thing is journey reporting. I don't imagine that will say a lot if I don't have data in there. Let's see. As another thing about these new reports, not the fastest. Okay, there we go. So funnel reporting. So a big pain that those of you who have worked reporting will have realized is that there is a complete breakdown in the funnel if you have funnel jumpers. So if anyone skips a funnel step, it essentially just breaks. And the cool thing now is that if you have someone skipping these steps, whether it is a deal funnel report or a lead funnel report, it will give you, I don't think I have anyone here, so I don't see it, but it will give you a skipped step view. So you can see the amount of deals or the amount of leads that actually skipped a funnel step. Instead of just completely falling out of the funnel, it will show you that they'll still theoretically fall out of the funnel, but it'll at least show you how many fell out of the funnel so you can report on them. It was very confusing before. If you had 10 subscribers and 8 of them moved to lead and then to marketing qualified, but 2 of them moved directly to marketing qualified, it would just say 8 down there and the 2 would disappear completely. Those would appear more clearly now. Maybe if I do the deep funnel, because that's a
just add. I think this was the update where there was just a huge sigh of relief throughout the conference room when they announced this. Screw AI. This is they finally solved the major pain that all of us who've been working with HubSpot has been kind of struggling with for many years now. Why can't they fix funnel reporting? How difficult can it be? And now they are finally doing something about it.
Exactly. So if you're an avid HubSpotter, this will definitely come as a very, very big change. Actually, if not, it might seem very minor, but it's just been extremely frustrating not to be able to do proper funnel reporting, and that works a lot better now, it appears. I'd still recommend implementing a workflow that makes sure that all leads and all deals do go through this funnel linearly. But that's a talk for another time. Maybe we can share that. We got a very good workflow for handling that. So other things in sequences, those of you working with those.
Can I just ask you, before you move on, do you have access to the Sankey views in the portal that you were just in?
I don't, unfortunately I don't, but Sankey reports is something that's going to be available in enterprise sales. And it's a very, very cool, I don't know if you are familiar with those of you listening, but it's like this horizontal waterfall model of, it's a different way to visualize the funnel, which makes it very easy to see which ones went to these different stages and which ones skipped stages or fell out of the funnel. So
if you work with customer journey analytics, or if you work with drop-off reports in Google Analytics, for example, then you know what we're talking about. That's Sankey reports.
Exactly. I'll just jump to this tab. So being originally a marketing system, A/B testing is obviously something that's important. But for reasons unknown, it never really got transferred to some of the other tools. So that's one feature I think is quite interesting as well. If you're working with sequences, you now have A/B testing, which is going to be very, very nice. You can do different versions of an email at a certain step in a sequence. And if you enable all those versions, you can see, well, which one of these versions is performing best, which ones has the best open rates, the best click rates, the best reply rates, or even how many meetings do we end up converting. So it's going to make it a lot easier to do that testing of which. So at this key step of my sequence where I ask them to book a meeting, for example, which version of a subject line actually performs best. These things are something you had to build like a Frankenstein monster of a sequence to really test. And now it's just made a lot easier. So if you are working with sequences, I would definitely recommend start testing out A/B testing in there. I'm just jumping between features here because I'm pressed for time, but there's so much good stuff I want to show you. If you are familiar with customizing your buckets, you know, you have the left-hand column with all your data, you have the middle column with all your the activity log and all the key reports on a contact or a company or a deal, and then you have the right-hand column with all your associations, right? And previously, you've been able to customize the left column. You could do different views of different data you want here, and you can even customize the right-hand column to say, well, we don't want ticket associations because we don't use service. But the middle-hand column, as all of you know, being the powerhouse of HubSpot, that's where all the good stuff happens. And we now have customization of the middle column. Very, very interesting to those of us who like to play around with really giving the best possible view in HubSpot. And you can even do this on team level. So you could say if a sales rep is viewing a contact record, I want them to be able to see how far along in this lead funnel, for example, they are. But if it's a service rep viewing it, I want it to highlight the last ticket that was on there. And if it's a marketing rep, then maybe I want what was the last email they saw and how many of our marketing emails are they engaging with. You can add these cards. And I think one of them, the most interesting ones, I think, are these data highlights, which essentially allows you to pull up a mini report. It's like a mini dashboard that you can pull up in that central column. So say, for example, that I want to see, well, what was the first conversion date and what was that first conversion? Because as a marketer, I'm very interested in seeing that. So I want a first conversion report to appear right there on top of our, there we go, on our, and I will just assign myself, let's say, let's do like this. And should be viewable if I just pull in one here. And I don't think I'm on the right team. Let me just jump to a different example here. I think if I go here, yes. Okay, so something similar to this, right? So I would have that report viewable right here on the top hand of my middle hand column. So making it very, very visible, those key data points or those key reports that you want all reps in a certain department to see. By the way, we also have this new leads view that we talked about before. It's visible out here, which is quite cool.
This is really, really nice. We talked about you know, AI-driven summaries in the beginning, and now I'm just kind of freestyling. But I would imagine that at some point in the future, you know, you could have HubSpot AI do, you know, give me a summary of this content record, and then we can have that card, you know, pinned at the top, so you can always kind of have that at the 3-line summary of a contact record you're looking at.
Exactly. I think it's they actually have something that's quite close to that already, but that's definitely definitely realistic that they will add that.
Yeah.
So again, it might seem like those minor tweaks, but to those of us working in HubSpot daily, it's just such a big customization improvement. It's been one of those points of frustration where, well, why can't you change this? There's something specific I want to appear there. Now you can, and it's going to be a huge improvement to those HubSpot admins of you out there that want certain teams to see certain things in the portal that others shouldn't see. So that middle column customization, and then another thing I'd just like to highlight is admin tools, something that's been sorely missing, and is going to be it's just a load off your shoulders that you can now go in and, for example, pull audit logs. I want an update on, well, that update that was made on a certain contact. Why exactly did that contact's record change? Who changed the data in here? So it's a whole space allowing you to sort of police the system and pull exact logs of every single change to every single data point that happened in the portal. Not something you need to like police on a daily basis, but if something strange happens, or something illegal happens, or something that's just out of the ordinary, then you have this availability of going in and pulling exact logs of who modified what exactly. So it's going to be a huge improvement, both in terms of like data security and the possibility to roll back things that are changed without it being supposed to change. Another good admin feature, approvals. You can now set up approvals for who should be allowed to send certain emails or post certain things on a website, for example. You already have this to some degree on user settings, but this is just an easier way to manage it across the board. And a final thing, because we've been talking a lot about AI, I think a lot will be a little bit skeptical or even worried about it. You have this very cool AI feature, for example, where if sales reps want the ChatGPT built-in function to write them a sales email, you can say, write email for me. It's right there. It's a highlighted feature if you're in your inbox. You have that write email for me. It auto-generates with ChatGPT and a built-in prompt. It auto-generates an email that you can send to a prospect. It's a very, very cool feature. But you do need to sort of review it. And you might have some sales rep that pretty much just goes, oh, that looks good. Well, send that. And you don't want that because that can potentially give unfortunate consequences. And that means you have the option to just turn it off. So if you don't want all these AI assistant tools available in the system, you as an HubSpot admin simply have the option to turning them off. Or you can even do it on more specific features. They are adding these constantly, so I'm sure it will be a lot more popular in the very near future. Currently, you have the option to choose content prompt and customer analysis, or just to disable all of them. But they more or less promised that within the next few weeks, this will get a lot more granular. But very, very nice to see that they are respectful of the worries that some might have in terms of AI. A final few things, and now we're moving into the things that are really, really interesting. Campaign Assistant. So HubSpot has previously had the option to, as I said, auto-generate, for example, an email or a similar features. But once you had that email, well, you needed a landing page for it. You needed to make a Google ad for it. You needed to maybe create a LinkedIn ad for it. And with Campaign Assistant, they basically said, we can build out the entire campaign for you based on AI prompts. So this is the key highlight of using generative AI in HubSpot. And they even made this free, so you don't even need a paid profile to do it. This is one of those features I'd say this is very close to or already ready to being used. It's not something I would rely on entirely. It's best in English. So if you're using Danish language prompts, it will be a little more creative with the language. And as with all things generated by AI, you need to edit it. But it's a very good starting point for building out an entire campaign instead of just a single asset. So I want to maybe build a landing page here. Let's just sign in here. Yes, that's all fine. Of course, they want my data. So let's say I want to build a landing page, and I just pre-wrote a prompt here. I want to invite HubSpot admins to a Nordics SaaS HubSpot user group. And as key messages, I maybe want something you can get all the key takeaways from inbound 2023. We want the timing to be there. The session will be now. And we want all HubSpot admins should attend this. And this is call to action here is to sign up, right? And I want it to be, let's say I want it to be witty, friendly, and informative. And just like that, it'll just take a few seconds. It's actually fairly fast. Just like that, I have the basis of a landing page. What they also highlighted, which is going to be very, very cool and should be just around the corner, is the ability for it to actually generate an image for this landing page as well. So something similar to what you know from maybe Midjourney, available right there in the tool. And you don't even have to prompt this image generator. You already have all the prompts here, so it will actually be able to generate the image automatically for you. But the very cool thing is, well, it's efficient with just a landing page. I want a Google search ad as well. Same prompts, or I can re-prompt it. But now, in just a few seconds, I have the basis for 3 good Google ads for this. And let's say I want a marketing email to send to my email list as well. Exact same process. I can generate it based on the same prompts, or I can change up the prompts a little bit. And now I have the basis for a good marketing email. So what used to take a couple of hours, even with ChatGPT, doing these custom prompts, really setting them up, they've like pre-built all the prompts for the different formats. And it takes seconds to build the basis of a very good campaign. Of course, you have to edit it. This is not the end-all, be-all solution, but this is generative AI at its very best. And I think this is going to, if not revolutionize, then at least assist us very much as marketers. It's a very cool feature. I like it very much. This is the I would highlight
some excitement about this in the channel as well. Mikkel has a great point that, you know, besides from having a tool that actually builds these or generates these things for you, it actually also serves as a kind of checklist for all the assets that you have to create when creating a campaign. For all of those those of you who are building campaigns on a regular basis, it's just kind of that, you know, endless work of assets that you need to remember to create every time, right? So this is this is definitely gonna make our life easier.
Exactly. And as Emil says, it makes sure you streamline your message across assets, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, the flip side of that is you have to be a little bit careful, because I just took the exact same prompts, and there you have to be a little bit careful that you don't get like the almost exact same wording on the different messages. But yeah, very much agree. Like, it's such an easy way to create an entire campaign, and realistically, you can create that entire campaign in, let's say, maybe an hour or two, where previously it took at least a full day. Yeah. So to marketing teams, especially the smaller marketing teams, very, very nice. Mikkel, I'm not sure when they expect to have the image gen in beta. It looked ready when they demoed it. It might be in there hidden somewhere that I'm just not able to find, but it looked very ready when they demoed it. So I would expect it to go live, or at least in public beta, in a very short time, maybe a couple of weeks or a month at least, at the most.
I think an important note here, and Marie, I agree. Like, if you're a one-man or one-woman marketing team, this is, you know, just godsend. One thing I think worth noting is, right now this is based on standard prompts, right? Like, you had a few options of customizing kind of your tone of voice, but that's about it. So the natural next evolution of these kind of tools is obviously that the, you know, HubSpot AI, they get to know your brand, right? Like, you don't even have to prompt it on your style, your tone of voice. They know kind of how you're used to communicating, and make sure that all your assets are on message. So I would definitely see that as the natural next step.
Exactly. That's what they're trying to do in Chatspot, right? If you've been following HubSpot AI, that's a final feature I'd maybe recommend you to look into. This is one of those examples of things where I'd say some features in there work, a lot of them need a lot more work. But this is basically their attempt at pre-prompting GPT with a lot of pre-built prompts that are made for the things you want to happen in there. And it will populate those prompts with data from your own portal, which is quite cool. So it's that best of both worlds of having generative AI based on generic prompts, and then having access to proprietary owned first-party data. Yeah. Some of these pre-built templates are not very good. Some of them are quite interesting. The two that I quite like already, you mentioned this previously, Aske, summarize a contact or company record, for example. So you could say, I want a summary of everything that we've had of touch points and interactions with Helion B2B, and it will pull out a small list of that. You still have to like do a little bit of digging to get the full summary, because it's very brief, but it's a good way to get a very brief overview of what we know about a record. And then one thing I think is very interesting is those down here, prospecting. So you could say, for example, I want to discover manufacturing, or let's say SaaS. We're in a SaaS context here, right? I want to discover SaaS companies in Copenhagen. And what it will do is not just based on data in your own portal, but based on Vinu. Like, if you work with Vinu or Ocean.io, they have this business intelligence sales prospecting data. It will pull up lists of all these different companies that might be interesting. You could refine this with company size or revenue. You could do further research on them. It will pull up more data. You can even directly add them to your HubSpot. Be a little bit careful GDPR-wise there. But this makes prospecting very, very easy. So definitely a cool feature as well. Chatspot is super interesting, but be a little bit careful with what you're using, because that's a great example of what we talked about with some of the features being a little bit gimmicky. Some of them work, some of them don't, but those that work, they're looking quite interesting.
Another example of, HubSpot aiming to let you do more stuff without leaving the platform, right? So, you can do your prospecting work without having to go back and forth between your prospecting tool. I guess for a little while, you still probably need a third party for that. But yeah, a lot of stuff can be done within Portal.
And I guess that's what they're ultimately aiming for with calling it a customer platform, right? They want this to be your one-stop shop, so you don't have to shop around in BI systems and prospecting tools and all kinds of third parties. Essentially, just have it all gathered in here.
Emil, going back to the admin updates, that was a question from Nikolai. Are there any updates coming about being able to enable and disable calendar sync for users, control auto logging of emails, meeting, and so on? So like on an admin level, can kind of control those things? Do you know?
I believe that's already there, Nikolai. And at least on a user level, you should be able to control this. Yeah. So you can on an admin level, I believe you can choose whether they have the option to do so. I also believe you can set global logging rules that overrule whichever local rules you might have set. With a team of your size, I think the easier option is to go in locally and make sure that everyone has the right settings set. But there should be admin features for it as well. We can have a look at it, Nikolai, and see whether it works. But that should be there already. If you are aware of any lacks in the current setup, let me know. But otherwise, I do believe that feature is already available.
All right. Are there any in the group that would like to share kind of any use cases of generative AI or otherwise, or kind of like just what's your general take on these updates, or anything you're excited about, something that you want to get going with already? Would love to hear from all of you. In the meanwhile, I can share a use case that I had just recently, Emil, was actually an example of the limitations that are still to these kind of tools. So I wanted Chatspot to extract all the data entries from a certain property. This was a comment field in a contact form, to kind of extract all that data in a client's portal, and based on those comments from these contact form, outline the top 5 main pain points from the customers or the prospects that filled out these forms. But it wasn't able to do that, no matter how I phrased that prompt. I just kept getting like a message, I can't do that. So that's one of those examples where I would probably then, instead I would probably extract the data from HubSpot and then put it into a language model tool somewhere else, kind of outside the platform, and then do my analysis there.
Yeah, but I think that's an interesting example. So one of the things that we're currently utilizing GPT for and will soon be using directly in HubSpot is single line text fields, for example. Right? We all know closed loss reason, for example, by default, when it comes out of the box, that's a single line text field. And then salespeople get very creative with which closed loss reasons you have. And you need to quite quickly, as an admin, change those up to being drop down values if you need any sort of analysis based on it. But maybe you don't know what those drop down reasons should be. So you need some sort of input. So what we've previously done is basically just allow for both of them. So we have a few basic closed loss reasons that are drop down available, and then we have other, and other conditionally opens a single line text field. But what you could do now is say, well, we just make it an open single line text field, and then we pull all the data from that single line text field out, and we throw it into GPT, and we let the AI summarize them. Say, based on these, what's going to be 200, 300 inputs, I want you to summarize 3 or 4 recurring themes. And then we use that to input back into a drop-down value. So there's a lot of interesting ways to utilize that.
Yeah, I agree. I think like taking a step further, I actually think I think we're moving into a world where single line text data entries used to be the bane of all marketers, but I actually think, you know, we're going to a place where we will see more and more data entry can be done with just single line text, and we can still do the analysis and the reporting and the automation that we need because of language model driven AI. We got a couple of comments, so let's make sure that we have time for them all. Jeppe asks, did they give any data indications for the AI chatbot?
I didn't get any specific indications for that, but most of those features, I believe AI chatbot was part of that. They unofficially said 6 to 8 weeks. Okay. So they always try to aim for having everything ready for inbound, and then they always spectacularly fail on the goal line, and then it takes a month or 2 afterwards. And it sounds like that's going to be the case here as well. Yeah, I would guesstimate that it's in that area, yeah, but they didn't give any exact date indications.
All right. Samina asks about attribution, which is, of course, a really, really interesting topic, and we should probably have a user group at some point dedicated to attribution models. But Samina, I'd like to just add a comment to what you're asking about. So you ask, if I feel like it's a very hot topic right now. It is, I agree. But not many have started that journey yet. I agree with that also. We are about to choose our attribution model, and I would appreciate some input on how to get started with this, if it's okay. Yeah, for sure. I have some takeaways actually that you might find useful. So when you start off with attribution reporting in HubSpot or other tools, you can easily get overwhelmed, right? There are so many different attribution models that you can use. But one, I actually attended an attribution session at the conference, and one takeaway there was actually, you know, if you're just getting started, focus on the simple stuff. So first touch and last touch attribution. Don't worry about all the other models just now. Just focus on those 2. Think of it this way. So first touch attribution model will tell you what are your prospects, your leads, your customers, what are their watering holes? How are people finding you? Where are they talking about you? What is the first signal that you can see from where you're sitting in terms of the buyer's journey, right? So that's how you should think about first touch attribution. Last touch, you should think about what is the thing that, you know, what was the bait that made them convert, you know, on your website. So you kind of have those 2 pieces of information, you know, where kind of like with the journey start, how did they find you, and then what convinced them to engage with your website or your brand. So start with those 2 models. And then another aspect to attribution is there are 2 ways you can go about it, and you should combine them. One is to do self-reported attribution. I don't know if any of you in the group have experience doing that already. Please chip in. So self-reported attribution is letting people answer themselves how they found your website, basically how they found your brand or whatever it is that they engage with. So on forums, you know, you can let people answer how they found you, and it's usually way more accurate than any of the digital attribution or automated attribution tools that you can use. And that actually ties back to what Emil just talked about, you know, AI-driven analysis of single line text, because you don't have to have a drop down when people, you know, for people to answer when they or select an answer when they choose how they found you. You can just let them write a single line text and then have AI and do analysis of that self-reported attribution. So that's a very, very, very interesting area in terms of AI capabilities. having people do self-report attribution, and then use AI to do analysis on those data entries. And then, of course, combining that with the, with the automated, the standard attribution that kind of comes out of the box with HubSpot, then if you focus on those things, then you're already really far ahead and well away on your journey working with attribution. Samina, I hope that that answers some of your questions. We could definitely talk way more about this. I think we should have it as a topic for an upcoming user group. Mikkel asked, do you think that generative text, social posts, and so on would be able to pull writing style, tone of voice from your own web content or previous organic posts? I have stopped using the tool because it always shoots far from our social tone of voice. This is really interesting. There was one of the tools, Emil, and I forget which one, that would actually scrape your existing, or at least look at your existing website content and use that as a basis. Do you remember which one that was?
I think it was actually Campaign Assistant or some of the writing prompts within like the blogging tool. This is one of those that I believe is not quite ready, but it is the promise. That was actually one of the highlights when they demoed it. Is that's because that is the exact challenge, as you say, right? It's very generic, and as Maria highlighted, it has certain words, very American sound, like harness, foster, and empower, that it reuses the same words over and over. It sort of becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy that because AI uses these words, that the AI generated text that it scrapes also use these words, and it becomes an echo chamber. And the whole point of it being able to scrape your own tone of voice, your own data, is that now it's your wording, it's your tone of voice that you previously used on your social profile or your blog or your website that it will use. But it's a very, very small data set for a language learning model. So I think they're still like figuring out how to incorporate a very small data set and combine that with a very, very large data set. In the demo, it looked very nice. I don't see it working yet. It's probably something that's half a year or so out into the future before it really works. But that is the part of the point of the built-in generative AI in HubSpot, is that it's supposed to be able to pull your existing content that's already hosted there and then utilize that as part of like the hidden prompt.
All right. We have just 2 minutes left, so I think we can just we have time for just one last comment here from Nikolai again about the new lead object. I assume the lead object will be able to be associated with other objects as well, company as well as contact. Any indications from HubSpot about its ability to be kept in sync with the most advanced contact of the company? That's really interesting. Example given in progress, connected on a company level as well. Highly valuable in B2B with long sales journeys and different touch points. Yeah, agree, Nikolai. So kind of what we know from today from lifecycle stages, the companies inherit the lifecycle stage from the most progressed contact. Do you know anything about this regarding the lead object, you mean?
Not that it should be able to recognize the most progressed contact, but it is the idea that lead sort of flows between contact and company. So it will, regardless of whether it's a contact or a company, they will both appear as leads and they will both have their own little progress funnel. I think you could solve a lot of this with workflows. To the best of my knowledge, and it is limited in terms of this new lead subject, there's not like a built-in feature for it to highlight the most progressed contact. But I can imagine a lot of workarounds for solving that. All
right. We're at the end. Thank you very much, Emil, for your inputs, for your great insights, showing us around in the new features. And thank you, everyone, joining. It's been a pleasure. We've had a lot of fun discussing these new updates with you. And we'll be in touch about the next session soon. And if you have any requests for upcoming topics and themes, as always, just reach out to us and we'll be happy to hear your inputs. All right. Have a great day, guys, and have fun. Bye-bye.
Bye.